Unlike you, I don't have a lot of time for parties. Will Thor be there?
Some of Korea's most beloved actors didn't just make it at home. One won an Oscar. Another joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But all 20 left the Korean screen to chase bigger opportunities abroad. Some succeeded. Some, well, there's always next time. Our first actor is a young actress who went from a complete unknown to a global breakout almost overnight. When Apple poured a reported fortune into pachinko, its sweeping family epic spanning Korea, Japan, and America in 4 languages, it spent 4 months searching across 7 countries for its young lead.
사람을 개바보로 던지다 가던 분이 지도를 희한하다고 해. 내일 빨래 타러 가자, 어디서. 지금 전에 빨아드릴게.
The search ended with Kim Min-ha, a near unknown with only a handful of credits and no management agency to back her, cast as young Sun-ja. She held the screen opposite a seasoned international cast and never once blinked. The reviews were rapturous, with critics on several continents circling back to her. And then, to everyone's surprise, she came home. Since Pachinko, she's worked almost entirely in Korean productions. Light Shop, Typhoon Family, Way Back Love, and she's currently shooting a Netflix rom-com opposite her Pachinko co-star No Sang-hyun. She could have chased Hollywood off the back of that breakout. She went back to our screens instead and has barely left them since. Not a bad way to start a career. Kim Min-ha broke through on one enormous project. Our next name did it with something small, quiet, and absolutely devastating.
내가 널 찾았을까? 우리가 사귀었을까? 헤어졌을까? 부부가 됐을까? 우리는 아이들을 가졌을까? 그런 생각들.
Teo Yoo had spent years working across Korean and international film when a modest American indie changed the shape of his career. In Past Lives, the A24 drama that earned a Best Picture nomination, he played Hae-soo, one half of one of the most tender love stories in recent memory. The performance runs almost entirely on restraint, a lifetime of longing carried in a single glance. Critics on both sides of the Pacific fell for it, and a festival favorite turned Teo Yoo into an internationally recognized face nearly overnight. And there's something lovely in the casting. Born to Korean parents, raised in Germany, trained across continents, he had always been a bridge between worlds. Past Lives is a story about exactly that. Teo Yoo's crossover was recent. This one came a decade and a half earlier, long before she became a household name across Asia.
She is the last of her kind. A half-blood with one purpose.
It's not your war. Go home. I can take care of myself.
To seek out a demon.
Most of the world knows Jun Ji-hyun as the impossibly charismatic lead of My Sassy Girl, or as the alien-loving actress of My Love from the Star, a drama so popular in China, it reportedly moved entire markets. But back in 2009, years before that second wave of superstardom, she took a swing at Hollywood. In the English-language action film Blood, The Last Vampire, she played Saya, a centuries-old half-vampire sword fighter hunting demons across an international production. And here's the honest part, it wasn't a blockbuster, and it didn't make her a Hollywood name. But that isn't the point. It made her one of the earliest top-tier Korean actresses to step onto an English-language set and carry it, action sequences and all, quietly testing whether the leap was even possible, long before it became fashionable. Jun Ji-hyun chased Hollywood. This actress went the other way entirely, toward one of the most revered auteurs in Asian cinema.
着得咁靚，過兩日我哋影張全家福。
She learned her lines in Mandarin. The production stretched across roughly 3 years of her life. Then Wong Kar-wai, a director notorious for cutting ruthlessly in the edit, reduced her role to a few minutes of screen time and barely 2 lines of dialogue. 3 years for 2 lines. That's the part nobody mentions when they talk about crossing over. You can do everything right. Take the risk, learn the language, put in the years, and still end up with almost nothing on screen. Sad to say, it happens even to the biggest stars in Korea. Song Hye-kyo gave 3 years to an Asian master. This legend gave a French one exactly 1 film, and then never tried again. To Korean film lovers, Choi Min-sik is a titan. the ferocious lead of Oldboy and I Saw the Devil, one of the greatest actors his country has ever produced. So when Luc Besson came calling, he agreed to give Hollywood a try.
투명 비닐봉지 4개 안에 파란색인지 보라색 가루가 들어있답니다.
야, 총 내려. 어? 비용신 새끼들 빨리 치워.
And even that took some persuading. Honestly, he didn't want the part. He was tired of Hollywood only ever offering Korean actors the same thing, another Asian gangster. So Besson flew to Seoul and pitched him the whole film over a 2-hour dinner, which was complicated slightly by the fact that Choi Min-sik didn't understand a word of his English. He finally said yes, but only after Besson agreed to put a clause in his contract, a written promise that the film wouldn't contain anything demeaning to Koreans. So, in Lucy, Besson's sci-fi thriller, he played the crime boss Mr. Jang opposite Scarlett Johansson, delivering every line in Korean while she answered in English. Besson later called him the most popular actor in the world. And that was it. Choi Min-sik was openly unsatisfied with his own performance, said he'd need far more English to do it again, and never has. As he put it, a caterpillar has to stick to its own tree. Choi Min-sik lent Hollywood his menace, then went home. The actress who came next arrived there on the back of the biggest show on earth. When Squid Game became a global phenomenon, it turned model-turned-actress Jung Ho-yeon into an overnight sensation. Her face suddenly everywhere, her following swelling into the tens of millions in a matter of weeks. That alone would make most careers. But it's what she did next that counts as a real crossover.
Have you got any contact details for him?
Here, address and phone number. I also emailed them to you.
She landed a leading role in Disclaimer, the lavish Apple TV Plus limited series from Oscar-winning director Alfonso Cuarón, acting opposite Cate Blanchett and Kevin Kline. In English, her second language, having never done it before. From a Korean survival drama to a prestige thriller by one of the most celebrated filmmakers alive. Inside a single career, most actors never get to attempt that leap. Jung Ho-yeon wasn't the only Squid Game player to go global. You knew her castmate Park Hae-soo as the brilliant doomed Sang-woo, player 218, one of the most heartbreaking figures in that whole bloody arena. But he took his talent well past it. He made his Hollywood debut in the Prime Video spy thriller Butterfly, joining Daniel Dae Kim in a series about a former American intelligence operative living in South Korea whose past comes back to hunt him.
여기 어쩐 일이야?
아니, 맛있는 국수 먹고 싶었는데 아무리 찾아봐도 네 가게밖에 없더라.
놀릴 거면 그 발음이나 똑바로 하고 놀리시든가.
무슨 발음?
It's a striking pivot for an actor who'd already proven his range in everything from the warm prison comedy of Prison Playbook to the Korean remake of Money Heist. Squid Game may have introduced Park Hae-soo to the world. He made sure it wouldn't be the last the world saw of him. Park Hae-soo crossed over recently. The man who comes next tried it back when almost no Korean actor dared. For much of the 2000s, Jang Dong-gun was one of the single biggest movie stars in all of Asia, and he pushed that stardom outward on every front open to him.
As you both fly under the stars to the tunes of the sad flutes.
We are called sad flutes because when you cut the throat, the last sound is like a sad flute.
Dang.
He headlined the English-language Hollywood film The Warrior's Way, playing a legendary swordsman alongside Kate Bosworth and Jeffrey Rush. Now, in all honesty, it didn't work. The film took just $11 million worldwide against a budget of around $42 million and never launched the Hollywood career it was meant to. But what matters is that he took the swing at all, when practically no Korean leading man was getting the chance. He also starred in major Chinese-language epics, from Chen Kaigi's The Promise to Dangerous Liaisons, reaching into China and Japan while staying a superstar at home. Later stars would find the path cleared. Jang Dong-gun went looking for it first. Jang Dong-gun opened doors across Asia. This leading man put a foot inside a global blockbuster franchise. A multilingual heartthrob adored across the continent for The King and the Clown, and the time travel epic Scarlet Heart Rye-yo, Lee Jung-jae landed a Hollywood credit with Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. Joining Mila Jovovich as the fighter Commander Chu, he brought a beloved star of Korean sageuk dramas to a worldwide action audience. It wasn't a huge part, and the film won't go down as anyone's favorite in the series. But it leaned on exactly what made him a star at home: his physicality, his ease in a fight scene. Mila Jovovich herself pointed out he's a third Dan martial artist, which rather explains it. Proof his charisma travels in any genre and any language. Lee Jung-jae joined a zombie franchise. This actress stepped into one of Hollywood's most famous spy universes. Enormously popular in Korea and Japan for dramas like Dong-yi, W, and the superhero hit Moving, Han Hyo-joo took a bold swing at American television with Treadstone. The USA Network series set squarely in the world of the Jason Bourne films. She played a quiet piano teacher in North Korea who is secretly a sleeper agent, performing in English across an international ensemble as a genuine lead. Not a novelty cameo. A lead. The catch is that the show didn't last. Reviews were mixed and the network canceled it after a single season, so it never became the launchpad it might have been. But she'd carried real material in her second language on a major American production. The vehicle stalled. The performance, and the nerve it took, was the real story. Han Hyo-joo entered the world of Bourne. The star who follows her helped define the Korean wave itself before ever making his own leap abroad. Lee Min-ho is one of the faces that launched modern Hallyu. Boys Over Flowers, The Heirs, Legend of the Blue Sea. They made him a superstar from Seoul to Bangkok to Beijing. But for years, all of that fame lived inside Korean productions. Then came Pachinko. In Apple TV Plus's sweeping, multilingual epic, he played the enigmatic, morally complicated Ko Han-soo and earned some of the finest reviews of his career.
그런 불효들 머지않아 피눈물 흘리게 될 거야.
뭐예?
지연이 아버지 토지세가 많이 밀렸어. 뺏기는 건 시간 문제지.
Performing in Korean and Japanese. And here's the detail that tells you how much it meant to him. He'd been such a giant at home that he hadn't auditioned for anything in 13 years. He said he'd almost forgotten how the process worked. For this, he auditioned anyway, and the showrunner confirmed he went through exactly the same rigorous process as everyone else. For an idol generation heartthrob who could have coasted on Korean romances forever, that's a real artistic risk. It paid off beautifully. Lee Min-ho went from Korea to the world. The actor who follows him did the whole thing backwards. Daniel Henney became a Korean drama heartthrob before he could speak much Korean at all. Cast famously in the hit My Name is Kim Sam-soon, largely on sheer charm. The show played the language gap for what it was. His character was written as an Asian American who struggles with Korean, so the awkwardness on screen was doing double duty. The country fell for him anyway. That finale drew a staggering 50% rating. He's since admitted he'd run away if he ever watched that performance back.
What happened to the other men who were sitting at the booth with her? Assuming they were irritated when Jessica left early.
No, they found out the girls. We have video of them all getting into a cab later in the evening.
Then the half-Korean, American-born actor went home to Hollywood. Daniel Henney became a series regular on Criminal Minds and its spin-off Beyond Borders, played the mutant Agent Zero in X-Men Origins, Wolverine, voiced the big brother Tadashi in Disney's Big Hero 6, and took up the sword as Lon Mandragoran in Amazon's The Wheel of Time. Most Korean stars cross over to the West. Daniel Henney crossed the other way first, then conquered both. Daniel Henney went from Korea to Hollywood. This actress made that exact journey years before almost anyone else. Before the current wave, there was Kim Youn-jin. A star of iconic Korean cinema who led the massive hit Shiri, she landed a leading role on Lost, one of the most obsessed over American dramas of all time, playing Sun Hwa Kwon for 6 full seasons.
I was going to leave Jin and start a new life in America. But I changed my mind at the airport because I was afraid.
She followed it with the ABC series Mistresses, and more recently voiced a character in the global smash K-pop Demon Hunters. There's a lovely detail buried in Lost, too. The writers were so taken with her real bilingual fluency that they turned it into a plot device. Sun secretly understood English the whole time, and nobody around her knew. Think about the timing. A Korean actress leading a major American series was all but unheard of, and she did it so well that a generation of Western viewers knew her face long before they knew the word Hallyu. She wasn't following a trail, she was cutting one. Kim Yun-jin broke into American television. The actress after her broke into its biggest franchises.
The regeneration cradle prints tissue. It can't build a living body.
It can. You can. You lack the materials.
Claudia Kim made history as the first Korean actor to appear in a Marvel movie, playing geneticist Dr. Helen Cho in Avengers: Age of Ultron, handpicked by Joss Whedon after fierce competition. And that was only the start. She starred opposite Idris Elba in the Stephen King adaptation The Dark Tower, took on the tragic, transforming role of Nagini in Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and appeared in Netflix's Marco Polo. She shot Avengers and Marco Polo at the same time, which is a scheduling nightmare most actors would run from. Marvel, The Wizarding World, a Stephen King adaptation, a Netflix epic, all while still working back home. She's spoken about the pressure of representing Korea in rooms like that. She carried it quietly. Claudia Kim was Korea's first face in the Marvel universe. A few years later, another leading man followed her into it. One of the most bankable stars in the country, thanks to Itaewon Class, Fight for My Way, and What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, Park Seo-joon stepped onto the biggest stage in entertainment.
You three need to disappear, but stay close.
My specialty.
In the Marvels, he appeared as Prince Yan, a role that exists because director Nia DaCosta binge-watched Itaewon Class during the pandemic and decided she had to work with him. Now, to be fair, it was a small part, and the film underperformed badly. His screen time was brief, but sit with the shape of it. One of Korea's biggest stars in a Marvel movie with Brie Larson, in a role written for him because a Hollywood director fell in love with his Korean dramas. For the millions who grew up on his romances, seeing him there at all was a genuine thrill, even if Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with him yet. Park Seo-joon joined Marvel as a new generation star. The man who follows him joined it as an unstoppable force of nature. You know Ma Dong-seok, or Don Lee as he's billed in the West, as the wall of muscle who bulldozes through Train to Busan and the record-shattering Roundup films.
I'll do it again. On any planet.
In Marvel's Eternals, he made his Hollywood debut as the warrior Gilgamesh, sharing the screen with Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek. Director Chloe Zhao has said she first noticed him in Train to Busan and was captivated, not just by the performance, but by his sense of humor. And for him, it was almost a homecoming. He moved to America as a teenager, settled in Ohio, and spent years as a personal trainer coaching mixed martial artists, including UFC Hall of Famer Mark Coleman, before charisma and sheer physical presence carried him back to Korea and into the movies. So when he stepped onto a Marvel set, he wasn't a stranger to America at all. He'd already built a whole life there. And here's the lovely contradiction. Behind that fearsome build is one of the most soft-spoken figures in the business. Ma Dong-seok punched his way into Marvel. This actress did something rarer. She became a fixture for some of Hollywood's boldest filmmakers.
Just one possible future.
You mean exaltation?
If any Korean actress made herself indispensable to visionary Western directors, it's Bae Doona. The Wachowskis cast her again and again as the tragic, luminous clone Sonmi 451 in Cloud Atlas, in the sci-fi spectacle Jupiter Ascending, and as the fierce Sunback across all of Netflix's Sense8. And the way it started is genuinely remarkable. They first met over a video call, and she sent them a demo tape her own brother filmed at home. She had no American agent and was between managers in Korea. Despite what she called her lack of English, they handed her one of the most important roles in the film. She's since said they earned her respect and trust the same way her own mother did, which, from an actress that private, is an extraordinary thing to say out loud. Add an award-winning turn for Japanese master Hirokazu Koreeda, and work running from Korean art house to Bong Joon-ho blockbusters, and she may be the most quietly international performer Korea has produced. She never chased Hollywood. The most interesting filmmakers alive kept seeking her out. Bae Doona became a muse for auteurs. Our top 3 begins with the Korean actor Hollywood called first. For a long stretch, Lee Byung-hun simply was the crossover, the name that came up whenever an American production wanted a Korean lead. He was already a phenomenon at home, the only actor ever to sell out the Tokyo Dome, 45,000 fans packed in for one man. Then Hollywood came calling, and he played the silent, deadly assassin Storm Shadow across the G.I. Joe films.
Storm Shadow, you will tell us Cobra's endgame, or die by the same sword you once used to kill our master. Your sword.
Here's a lovely detail from that first job. G.I. Joe had never really aired in Korea, so he didn't know the franchise at all, and he asked the director whether he should watch the old cartoons to prepare. The answer was no. They wanted him to invent the character from scratch. And he did. From there, the T-1000 in Terminator Genesis, and a lethal gunslinger in The Magnificent Seven, holding his own beside Denzel Washington. In 2016, he became the first Korean ever to present an award at the Oscars. And then he anchored the most-watched series in Netflix history as the masked frontman of Squid Game. Lee Byung-hun broke down the door. This one walked through it and made history on the other side. When Squid Game became the most-watched series Netflix had ever released, its lead, Lee Jung-jae, made history alongside it. He became the first Asian man to win the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, and the first person ever to win it for a performance in a language other than English. And then he did the almost unthinkable. He picked up a lightsaber.
The Force. Have faith. Think of diving into a great ocean. Give yourselves over.
Cast as the Jedi Master Soul in Disney's Star Wars series The Acolyte, he went from a brutal Korean survival thriller to one of the biggest franchises in the galaxy. The creator wrote the part with him in mind after watching Squid Game. And since he'd never acted in English before, he spent 4 months with 2 dialect coaches before filming even started. She later called him the best actor she's ever worked with. With an Emmy in one hand and a lightsaber in the other, Lee Jung-jae didn't just cross over. He planted the Korean flag at the very center of global pop culture. Lee Jung-jae conquered television and a galaxy far, far away. But if any single story caps them all, it's this one. For over half a century, Youn Yuh-jung was a beloved, endlessly working actress in Korea, a legend at home long before the rest of the world had any idea who she was. Then, in her 70s, she took a supporting role as a sharp-tongued, foul-mouthed, unforgettable grandmother in a small American film called Minari.
할머니 같은 게 뭔데?
쿠키도 만들고 나쁜 말도 안 하고 남자 팬티도 안 입고.
그래? 그럼
하지마!
And here's the part that says everything about her. It was a tiny $2 million production, and she signed on without hesitating. When the producers asked her to fly economy from Seoul out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, she negotiated her way into business class and quietly paid the difference herself. She hired a translator friend out of her own pocket too, just to get the Korean dialogue right. In her own words, she sacrificed her time and her money. A woman with 50 years of stardom behind her arrived in a small Oklahoma town and became, as she put it, a nobody who had to prove herself all over again. And in 2021, the role she had personally paid to improve won her the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, making her the first Korean and only the second Asian woman in history to win an acting Oscar. Of everyone who ever tried their luck beyond Korea, not one of them went further than her. So tell me, which of these surprised you the most? Who do you think truly made it, and who deserves another shot? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you'd like to see the K-drama actors who waited until their 40s to get married, click the video on your screen.